republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and as I always do, I'm going to ask that people mute whatever electronic devices they might have that could go bang in the evening or whatever. We will start by noting a quorum, although sadly Mr. Basemith is on vacation, so we're expecting postcards from him on a regular basis, but for now he's not with us, but we have 5 members, and that is a quorum. Madam Clerk, can you confirm a quorum?
I confirm the presence of the quorum.
Okay, and we have an agenda that has been circulated, and with that we will follow that agenda. We turn to the minutes of the last regular meeting of the council on April 4th. Those meeting minutes were circulated. As far as I know, there have been no comments, and so I'm going to ask to have a motion to accept the minutes as circulated.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And in the public comment and presentation section, I'm going to begin with some proclamations that somehow all landed in this month, and rightly so, and I'm happy to do them. So I'll begin with the proclamation ordering municipal clerks and honoring municipal clerks in Glendale and everywhere for their tireless efforts in making local government work better, and proclaiming May 1st through 7th, 2022, Municipal Clerks Week. And I have to say that this came to me from the Municipal Clerks Association, and they like to promote this recognition, but this is just a pleasure on my part to do. We have a great clerk here, and not only does she do great minutes, but when we were going through those reconciliations, and it was like the Bataan Death March for you World War II buffs, and she was right in there with everybody slogging through the jungle and getting it done. So with that, I'm going to read the proclamation. Whereas the office of the municipal clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world. Whereas the office of the municipal clerk is among the oldest among public servants. Whereas the office of the municipal clerk provides the professional link between citizens, the local governing bodies, and agencies of government at other levels. And whereas municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all. And whereas municipal clerks serve as information centers on functions of local government and community. And whereas municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of their communities through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meetings of their state, county, and international professional organizations. And whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments and diligent efforts of municipal clerks, now therefore be it resolved that the mayor and the council of the village of Glendale do hereby proclaim the week of May 1st through May 7th as Municipal Clerks Week. And be it resolved that the mayor and council of the village of Glendale extend our appreciation to our own municipal clerk, Rebecca Terrell, and to all municipal clerks for the vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication to the communities they represent. In short, thank you, Becky.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I turn now to a proclamation honoring our local teachers, the teachers of our local schools for their diligent efforts in educating the children of Glendale, and proclaiming May 2nd through 6th, 2022, Teacher Appreciation Week. Whereas teachers mold future citizens through guidance and education, and whereas teachers encounter students of widely varying backgrounds and abilities, and whereas the future of our village and our country depend on providing quality education to all students, and whereas teachers everywhere spend countless hours preparing lessons, evaluating progress, meeting one-on-one with their students, and performing community service. And whereas the Village of Glendale recognizes and supports our teachers in educating the children of this village, now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Glendale hereby proclaims May 2nd to May 6, 2022 to be Teacher Appreciation Week. And be it further resolved that the Village of Glendale strongly encourages all residents of our village to join with it in personally expressing appreciation to our teachers and school staff for their dedication and devotion to our children. Thank you, teachers. We really don't say that enough. And now I'm going to read a proclamation that I delivered yesterday at the Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church. It's a proclamation celebrating the 20th anniversary of Pastor Kendall Logan as the leader of the Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church. Whereas Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church, located at 40 Coral Avenue, Glendale, Ohio, is celebrating the 20th anniversary of Pastor Kendall A. Logan on Sunday, May 1st at 10 o'clock a.m. Whereas Pastor Logan is truly a pastor-teacher under whose leadership the church has added a multi-million-dollar addition, which includes a gymnasium, multi-purpose facility, church offices, and classrooms. Whereas prior to the COVID pandemic, Sunday school attendance had increased threefold, and the Sunday sanctuary services had to be expanded to 2 services to accommodate the growth in membership. And whereas at Thanksgiving, Pastor Logan started a Feed the Homeless program to provide meals for those living in shelters and others in need, utilizing church vans to transport people to the church, providing haircuts, games, and snacks. And whereas under Pastor Logan's leadership, many in the church congregation participate in the Matthew 25 ministries, as well as its own benevolent programs. And whereas Pastor Logan has started morning meditation every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday at 10 a.m. and Bible study on Wednesday at 12 noon in order to keep the membership grounded in the Word of God. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor of the Village of Glendale hereby proclaims the village's respect and admiration for the good work of Pastor Kendall A. Logan. Be it further resolved that the mayor of the Village of Glendale expresses the village's appreciation to Pastor Logan for his 20 years of service to his church in Glendale. And that is it for proclamations. And now we turn to the general comments. And I invite anyone in the audience to come forward and if they wish to address council, please.
Good evening, council. My name's Bill Parrish. I'm the executive director of the Eckstein Cultural Arts Center in Glendale at 220 East Sharon Road. I'm here tonight. Last council meeting, I invited council to come to our cleanup of the Eckstein School at 42 Washington Avenue. And some of council did come, so I wanted to recognize you and thank you for just a great effort. Mayor Lofty, Vice Mayor Mike Bessel, Councilwoman Marilyn Dukes, and they did a lot of work. I mean, we weren't expecting this to be a situation where we actually cleaned up. We were just inviting community to come and gather with us and celebrate the building. But all the work was done, and we uncovered some things on the side of the building that we didn't know were there. So I'd also like to thank Councilwoman Amy Baldridge, who came also and had a great conversation with her and her husband. So I really, tonight I just came to say thank you for supporting the Eckstein School effort. Cincinnati Preservation Association was there in numbers. There's a great support team. It was great to see you guys come out and the village show up. I mean, it was a great effort to see how community can work together. So thank you very much for council's effort
You're very
and the
welcome.
work that you did. Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody else wish to address council?
My name's Kevin Parrish and brother of William Parrish. I wanted to address council on an issue that was brought before this council a couple months ago, and that was the racist remarks of Mr. Bogrant that I brought toward council that was directed toward 3 black residents, Councilwoman Dukes, myself, Kevin Parrish, and Bill Parrish. Trying to understand the lack of bringing this issue to council under the morality clause for you guys to address it, because as a resident, you are supposed to address the issue such as this when racism issues are so high in this country. But since you haven't, I can only come to the conclusion that you must be in agreement with his racist views of us as residents. I haven't received any feedback from you guys from it, and I haven't heard anything from it. But that's secondary, because we haven't addressed racism in this village at all. The double standard that exists between black residents and white residents, and but that's been in existence for a long time, and people just accept it. That is, most of them. That's why I'm the voice of black residents, because most black residents have accepted their position in this community as being second. The water issue. You guys said, Mayor, you said you wanted to have honesty and transparency, but yet with this water issue, you guys have not disclosed the CMOM. You know, you guys came up with the CMOM to get the $90,000 grant that we received in February of 2020, and yet you haven't did anything, and you haven't even made that viewable to the public. I looked at the CMOM as I did the first CMOM, and I don't understand how in putting in an application for any fund that you can get money with an incomplete application. The application that does not even address the issues that we have in this village is not addressing them. So what is the money going to? And you've still been holding on to it for over a year and nothing. Now, the latest issue is the sinkhole that's at Summit Park that you guys just covered up with gravel that was 10 feet. You didn't even make a public announcement as to what the underground water is doing in this village. Just because you don't see it, we know it's a problem. So I bring your attention to an issue that in May 8th, the Utilities Committee documented, May 8th of 2016, telling you guys of the extent of the issue of neglect and deterioration that exists in our pipes. Anybody who wants to see that, just go online and Google the May 8th Utilities Committee meeting, and you will see that at that time, over 50% of the pipes were damaged or collapsing. 6 years ago. We haven't did anything since then, and we can't expect for things to get better when we don't even know how to address them. We have a CMOM that is for a competent crew because they've been working on it for 2 years and they come up with a solution or even to address it. Now, the racism in this community is so high that you would believe the misinformation that you get from this administration than me. But I come to this council not to present lies, because I know that lies would fall back on me immediately. It would take months and months for you to address issues of me bringing misinformation. But
You have about a minute.
and always my time is accounted for, you know, because it's not an important issue. But residents are becoming more aware when it rains what is happening as a reality check to their properties. I'm not trying to win a popularity contest. I'm trying to protect my investment. You pay taxes, I pay taxes, and I'm looking for something with what my tax dollars is going for. So that's what I'm trying to do. But when we have an administration that has been on lies, that spends thousands of dollars to defend public records requests, thousands. And I've spent thousands of dollars to show that, I'm gonna show how corrupt and criminal activity is going on by them defending public records. They wouldn't say they're public records and accessible if they were not. Thousands of dollars. Ask them how much money have they spent in the last 2 years, parish versus the village of Glendale, to defend about a public
Your time has
records request
expired.
about these water issues. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
inasmuch as my name has expressly been raised, I'd like to say a word or two. Firstly, I sincerely appreciate your bringing matters that I was unaware of to the attention not only of me, but also of council. I speak now without the advantage of a written or prepared script, so I am cautious in what I say. I take not only what you brought up, which scratched the surface of an iceberg as far as I'm concerned, and moreover, I take the responses in council to what you raised in February very, very seriously. So seriously, I've had conversations with the mayor. I've had conversations with a few others. And I weigh very heavily the course of action before me and before this village. Do not misunderstand that my silence is acceptance or in any way ignoring what was brought up. But I need to proceed with caution. That's all I can say at this moment. Thank you.
And I will just say that because we don't respond directly to statements that are made in council on many occasions, that does not mean that we accept them. That does not mean that we agree with everything that's been said. For example, the cases that Mr. Parrish referred to have generally been dismissed or he's
But you didn't
withdrawn them.
respond to those.
So we are just, we have things to do. We have business to take care of at this council meeting.
And for the
and we are
record, you
going to
did respond
proceed.
to the comments that I made at the
We-
last
You have had your chance to speak, Mr. Parrish.
At the
Now,
last
please
council,
sit down.
after I had stepped away from this podium and left the building.
It doesn't matter if you step
were
away. Your
recorded.
time
You
has
were recorded
expired.
in your conversations about my things that I presented at council.
Your time has
It just
expired,
shows the cowardice
Mr.
of
Parrish.
You guys don't address me directly. So don't sit up there and tell a lie on this recorded session.
Okay, we will now
Maybe you can lie on this
turn
one.
to another matter.
I'll look at the last meeting.
Mr. Parrish, you're interrupting the meeting.
When I come in this building, I interrupt the meeting because you change. You change every time. Look at your face. I'm getting sick of it, Mayor.
Okay, I'm wondering if I am correct in assuming that a number of the people who are here were not here to listen to me argue with someone, but to actually witness a very happy event in the careers of some of our police officers. Would I be correct in assuming that? Okay, so what I am going to propose to council is that we move item 7 under new business up to the top of the agenda, which is to say now, and that is an ordinance increasing compensation for current full-time police officers and declaring an emergency. Chief, can you give us some background on this?
Yes, we'll start off with Officer Barber. Greg lives in Middletown, Ohio, with the mother of his 3-year-old son and her two children. He served as in the Marine Corps with the United States Marine Corps for 4 years, active duty during which Greg partook in extensive leadership training over that time. When Greg left the military, he joined Butler County Sheriff's Department and worked there in investigations. Greg came to the Glendale Police Department in 2016, and today he'll be promoted to sergeant.
And there's somebody else?
Officer Hilling. Officer Hilling is married with 4 children, ages 7 years and younger. He started with the Glendale Police Department in 2011 as a part-time officer. In 2016, he was promoted to full-time officer. In that same year, he was awarded the Officer of the Year and Medal of Honor. Josh works with the Police Executive Research Forum, where he travels around the country. He holds a bachelor's degree and a master's degree from the University of Cincinnati. And today he'll also be promoted to the rank of sergeant.
Thank you. And just to be very clear, the purpose of the ordinance is simply to recognize the promotion of these 2 fine officers with an increase in their salary. And so I'm going to ask, do I have a motion for that ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. And is there any discussion? And do I have a motion to dispense with 3 reads?
So moved.
Second.
And Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
For ordinance 2022-29, to dispense with the 3 reads, Mr. Bessel,
Aye.
Ms. Duke,
Aye.
Ms. Masenko,
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler,
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge.
Aye.
For ordinance, to pass the ordinance, Mr. Bessel,
Aye.
Ms. Duke,
Aye.
Ms. Masenko,
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler,
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge.
Aye.
Thank you.
Now I would like to invite these 2 officers up to step into the well here, and I would like to swear them in. Watch the cord. Thank you, because I'd be perfectly capable of tripping over.
I know, me too.
Okay, well, let's start with this. Let's start with the swearing here. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Greg Barber,
Do hereby swear
do hereby swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially discharge
and impartially discharge
the duties of Sergeant of the Glendale Police Force
the duties of Sergeant of the Glendale Police Force
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Welcome. Watch it, don't stab them. Ow. You don't have your vest on?
I do.
Okay.
I trust her.
Good reach. Gentlemen, you may make the rounds here.
Walk of shame.
Sergeant.
Congratulations.
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 Sergeant. Congratulations.
Sergeant.
Thank you, Sergeant. It's well deserved.
Thank you.
I'll always remember when you came to my yard that Christmas.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sergeant. Well deserved.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant.
That's the fun part of the job, in case anybody wonders.
See you on Memorial Day.
We know it.
See you then.
Okay, I should ask, does anybody else want to address council? I forgot to do that, okay. We'll turn now to two items of old business on the agenda. And the first is Ordinance 2022-04, an ordinance inserting Chapter 154.59 in the Village of Glendale Code of Ordinances, establishing regulations related to residential and commercial signage in the Village of Glendale as recommended by the Glendale Planning and Historic Preservation Commission. This ordinance was placed on the table by council at its last meeting with the thought that we would take it to the Glendale Planning and Historic Preservation Commission, and that is what I intend to do. Can I have so that we can have some discussion here, may I ask for a motion to take this ordinance off the table?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Man, can I jump in and give a little background on the reason?
Please do.
Okay. So when we started out with this sign redo, there was a 2015 case that was kind of ambiguous, and then over the course of recent couple of years, we've had 3 Sixth Circuit cases that were very restrictive, unexpectedly so, that had us amend it the way we have in a way that's a little bit more restrictive as far as the ability of the village to regulate signage. And just in the last couple weeks or so, the United States Supreme Court came out with yet another case interpreting that 2015 case, at least with respect to on-premises versus off-premises signage. That one kind of going the opposite direction and providing an interpretation about the constitutionality of regulating off-premises signage on private property. Long story short, it's highly unusual that there's so many cases, binding cases in this district that would be kind of influencing the way we would amend this code in this last couple of years. But so that's just yet another thing that we'll be evaluating now that Supreme Court case has come out. We'll have to take another look at this draft as it is written, and I think we'll have at least a couple provisions in there that will need to be amended now that the Supreme Court has made the determination that it's constitutional to look at the distinction of a sign between off-premises and on-premises. Billboards are, a big example, but that can apply to, smaller signage too. So, and that's a good thing for the village as far as it offers a little bit of flexibility that seemed to have been taken away with the Sixth Circuit cases.
Mr. Mayor, question
Yes.
please.
Sure.
The terminology off-premise signage. Can you give a couple of examples of off-premise signage within Glendale?
Sure. I can't give you an example exactly within Glendale, but let's say if you have, like a UDF decides it wants to sell digital signage advertising for other services or products in their parking lot. That would be an off-premises sign because it would apply to something not occurring on the premises. And the big example is a billboard, but it can go down to even kind of small signs. The court interpretations we've had as of late have said that where you generally have, you want to regulate signage in a content neutral manner, and where you have to look at the sign and determine if it's something occurring on the premises or off, that's not content neutral. So therefore it's basically probably going to be found unconstitutional. What the most recent court case said was, at least in the situation with the on-premises versus off-premises distinction, they said, we the court do not consider that content-based regulation. We think you can at least look at that one distinction, and that would fall under the rational basis. The constitutionality will likely be there as far as that one aspect of sign regulation goes. If that makes
Well,
sense.
thank you, because I
You're welcome.
was not familiar with that terminology.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you, Kathy. That will be one of the things that we are sending back to the Planning Commission to say, should we be doing something with regard to off-premises / billboard signs? The others, there had been, as we held public hearings, as we talked amongst ourselves, there were issues that came up. And I made a first stab at taking some of those issues and seeing if the ordinance could be amended to address them. For example, I think putting a sign on a hand railing or something. It wasn't exactly a clear status there, or the status of the legality of that wasn't clear. So I made some changes, circulated them to everyone. They will be posted on the village website once we get, once this goes off to the Planning Commission. And after Planning Commission takes a look at them, they will have an opportunity to either suggest, yeah, that's a good change, or no, it isn't. Also, one of our council members, Councilwoman Senko, raised a number of questions about the about the ordinance, and that too is going to go to the Planning Commission, and it will start at an ad hoc committee that drafted the ordinance in the first place, and then we'll go with their comments to the Planning Commission. So, but I'm hoping that it will move fairly quickly, because I think the questions are fairly focused, and so I'm truly hoping that Planning Commission get this back to us by the July meeting, and we can have something in place before the election season starts in earnest, because I think people are entitled to have guidance as to what sorts of signs should be allowed in the village as we go into a sign where signs are going to be very common. It's a good plan. What I'm wondering is there anything further? Is there anything else that I should include when I send this off to the Planning Commission, other than what I've just said?
Do you need a motion to do that?
No, I'm asking just from council.
Okay.
I just would like to ask a procedural question. Let's say this is all finalized and we vote on it and we now have the new sign ordinance. How difficult is it to amend it if we realize there's a blind spot or something that maybe should have been written differently?
Like any other ordinance, it would just, a proposal to amend would come to council, and it would be considered in council just like any other ordinance. The thing that makes this so difficult is that it's a matter of constitutional law. And so it is a very complicated area of law. And Lord knows we might have missed something, but we are free to amend it as we see fit.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I don't think I need a motion to send this off to the Planning Commission.
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
you asked if there was something else that you should,
yes,
consider. If this were adopted, would it be a new chapter or a section within an existing chapter?
It would be a new chapter. Let's see now, what do we call? Okay, it is chapter one. Well, no, it's part of chapter 154, which is zoning law, but it's a new section of that, 154.59. So it's a whole new section, and what it does is it combines previous separate sections we had on signage into one signage section.
And also 154.37 is the current ordinance, and that would be repealed. And it has that under section 1 of the current ordinance draft.
I'm sorry, that is where?
On ordinance 2022-04, down at section 1, it says section 154.37 is hereby repealed in its entirety.
It's
In
being
that case, I'm
replaced.
looking at Resolution 2022-002.
04.
Okay, thank you.
Is it okay?
Yes, thank you. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
no,
Yes,
oh, okay.
Thank you.
Didn't want to rush it. Okay, so what I would propose to do at this point is entertain a motion to retable this ordinance until we hear back from the Planning Commission.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we turn now to ordinance 2022-17, and this is still in old business. An ordinance establishing a transaction fee for credit card payments to the Village of Glendale and Glendale Utility Department. And this fee would be $3, which somewhat tracks the fee that we are charged by the providers of these credit cards. It's on the, it's before council. This is the second read. Does anyone have anything further to say on it? We turn to ordinance 2022-23. And this is going to be a long-winded title here, but I want to say that I have to read the entire title, and don't blame David, it comes from Columbus. So, this is an ordinance approving and granting consent to the Director of the Ohio Department of Transportation Authority to apply, maintain, and repair standard longitudinal pavement markings and erect regulatory and warning signs on state highways inside village corporate limits, and giving consent to the village for the Ohio Department of Transportation to remove snow and ice and use snow and ice control material on state highways inside the village corporate limits, and giving consent of the village for the Ohio Department of Transportation to perform maintenance and/or repair on state highways inside the village corporation and declaring an emergency. I can only assume that this is because we have home rule in Ohio, and so our consent is needed even for the state to take care of its own roads in the village. Do I have a motion for this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
And a motion to dispense with 3 reads?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Okay. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
For ordinance 2022-23, to dispense with the 3 reads, Mr. Bessel,
Aye.
Ms. Duke,
Aye.
Ms. Masenko,
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler,
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge.
Aye.
For the ordinance, Mr. Bessel,
Aye.
Ms. Duke,
Aye.
Ms. Masenko,
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler,
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge.
Aye.
Thank you.
We turn to ordinance 2022-24, an ordinance authorizing the village administrator to enter into and execute contracts with the Department of Transportation which are necessary to develop plans for and to complete the systematic sign replacement, general routes, PID number 101029 project, and to execute contracts with Odot, pre-qualified consultants for the preliminary engineering phase of the project, and declaring an emergency. Do I have a motion for this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
And a motion to dispense with 3 reads?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, David, maybe you can, I think we maybe need a little explanation here.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. So, ordinance 2022-23 was the general maintenance agreement that the village has with ODOT for the maintenance of Ohio 747 or Congress Avenue in the village. This is, think of it as a supplement to that, pertaining specifically to roadway signage along 747. So as ODOT performs replacement of signage, this gives them the ability, our consent for them to perform that work within the village.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yes, question.
Mhm.
Is the short of it that ODOT will be replacing the existing signs?
Correct. ODOT can replace existing signs if they find the need to install additional signage. They would, of course, communicate with us at any time my signage is identified to be replaced. So if there is additional signage, then they could install that as well if they find a need for it.
Thank you.
Would this always be at their cost, or?
Yeah, so the Section 2 addresses that any necessary work would be 100% the state's cost to bear, and then anything that the village would choose to have done would be our responsibility, which of course would go before council and the Streets Committee.
Thank you.
Yeah, it has that phrase in there you probably picked up on, Will, about Glendale agrees to pay 100% of the costs of those features requested by the village, which are determined by the state to be unnecessary. So,
Unnecessary.
yeah.
Key word.
Okay. Any other discussion? Madam Clerk?
For ordinance 2022-24, to dispense with the 3 reads, Mr. Bessel.
Aye.
Ms. Duke.
Aye.
Ms. Masenko.
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge.
Aye.
For the ordinance, Mr. Bessel.
Aye.
Ms. Duke.
Aye.
Ms. Masenko.
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge.
Aye.
Thank you.
Ordinance 2022-25. An ordinance authorizing the village administrator to enter into and execute contracts with the Department of Transportation, which are necessary to develop plans for and to complete the FY fiscal year 23 urban paving project on 747 in Springdale, PID number 110406 project, and to execute contracts with Odot pre-qualified consultants for the preliminary engineering phase of the project and declaring an emergency. Do I have a motion for this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
And to dispense with 3 reads?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, why are we signing a contract for Springdale, David?
So this is a 2-part answer. The fiscal year 23 urban paving project on 747 in Springdale is ODOT's formal name for the project. PID being its identifying shorthand number. Additionally, this project is the repaving of 747 beginning in it does a very small portion of their work will overlap into Glendale, requiring this legislation, but it's heading north towards Tri-County that they're doing this work. So just a very, very small portion of the village road up by the cemetery.
Okay. Any discussion?
No.
Madam Clerk?
For ordinance 2022-25, to dispense with the 3 reads, Mr. Bessel.
Aye.
Ms. Duke.
Aye.
Ms. Masenko.
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge.
Aye.
For the ordinance, Mr. Bessel.
Aye.
Ms. Duke.
Aye.
Ms. Masenko.
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge.
Aye.
Thank you.
And we turn to ordinance 2022-26, an ordinance approving the design and related content for Glendale Arboretum signage and declaring an emergency. I'm going to start out just asking if I have a motion for this ordinance
So moved.
Second.
and to dispense with 3 reads.
So moved.
Okay. I'm now going to invite representatives of the Urban Forestry Board who, as you know, they spoke to us last month about this project. And at that time, we approved the size of the signs, the labels that they are going to put on or around the trees in the Arboretum. And now they have a design that they want to show us. They want to show us how they are getting the information, the content of the information that they will put on a website that will be accessed with QR codes, and hopefully seek our approval for the project. So, Mr. Hubbard?
Thank you. You each have a copy of the presentation I'm going to give you. Most of you have probably already seen a copy of it. We're just moving down the line as far as the project's concerned in implementing an arboretum in Glendale, and I'll talk more about that in just a few minutes. The ordinance itself, in the objective for tonight, is that we want to we wanted your approval of the design content. And earlier, in earlier meetings, you've approved the size of the sign, which is roughly 4 by 5, and which is like a baby sign type size. And the fact that we're going to implement an arboretum has been approved, and we've already purchased a lot of the equipment, not the signs, but the equipment that the signs mount to. Most of the research on inventory and all this kind of stuff was Joe Moravec over here. And the guy with the magic fingers in the presentation is Joe Forestry here. And he's our newest member, and we certainly are glad to have him. But anyway, the second page starts with this one that says the sign. That is the actual sign, size of the sign. And we're supposed to use the word label rather than sign, but so it's a label, okay? And you can see what the label represents. Across the top is the Arboretum logo, which is new. The next is the common name. This is the one we recognize for all the trees. And the next is the scientific name. Nobody here knows him probably. But I can't tell you what all of them are. Well, I'm starting to learn them. Because Joe has been doing the inventory, he knows them pretty well now. And then what you see in the middle there is 33. That's the tree number. And every tree will have a number. And so everything that later we talk about QR codes and things like this is controlled, what you go see is controlled by that number. Then you see to the left on the bottom, the logo. We changed the logo, and I'll talk more about that in a couple of minutes. And then the QR codes, and all these labels will have QR codes on them. And does everybody know what the QR codes are? I mean, nobody's got to put their hand up and say, I don't know. No. I recognize that. But we're going to talk a little bit about that. And that's where we get into the depth of the program. If you can look at this, what is trying to say that from this, you go down to a iPhone or a.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing. Those QR codes are just for placement. It's just it's a mock-up. The actual QR code will go to direct to the right place.
Yeah. Anyway, so what you see, anybody going through and using the QR code is they will see a picture, and it could be pictures of those type of trees. In this particular point, it was a sycamore tree, and below it is what the tree is and what the scientific name is, and the rest of it's an explanation. What do we know about the tree? What's of interest about the tree to the person that's looking at the document? And we have just to give you an idea. The next page shows well, that is the sycamore, which one I was looking at. But the next one is the Norway spruce, which is a great tree, big tree, and they hide a lot of things, and that's one of the values of it. And another one's the sugar maple. We have about. We've inventoried about 62 trees so far. The application will have 30 trees on it. But that means we can grow in the future as far as labels are concerned. as we proceed. The next page is just an example of some places we get information from. And this is Wikipedia, and it has a write-up of interest to everybody. This won't come up when you when you on your phone. I'm just saying this is where some of the information has come from. Also from Morton Arboretum, they have write-ups on trees, and we have write-ups from a lot of different sources, like ODNR has write-ups on trees. So, yeah, most of this has been done by Joe, going to all these sources and trying to write something that would be of interest to the people that are looking at the trees. And then the next page is the logo. We didn't have a logo that fit our name, which is Urban Forestry Board. And I guess we changed it about 6 months ago or something like that, or a year ago. So now it says Glendale Urban Forestry. And there's two shown on this page, just to give you an idea. The first one with the orange inside pretty well coincides with what Jody's Karani designed in the first place. So we were very sensitive to trying to keep that, that tie-in with Jody on that. And Nancy was part of that also, knee-deep in it. And but you see we've got trademarks on it and doing all sorts of things here. The one on the bottom, the smaller one on the bottom, is the one that would go on the labels. And all where you see all the white, it's blank. It's not white, it's blank. It's the color of whatever it's on. For instance, on the label, you saw a logo on the bottom left-hand side, and it has the background. All this white area is the color of the label itself. Okay, so that's we're just coming up to today. The next one is on the presentation is again a layout of where the arboretum is planned initially, and you can see that this is a work of process, because this is going to be changed. It's going to look, but there's more than just this. What we're talking about is you see boxes of different places like Van Cleve and Village Square. What we can do is blow those up, and you can see more trees in those areas. And every tree there is identified by a number. You've ever seen the number on the label. And so we can put those boxes in handouts for people to go around the village and take a tour and study the trees. It's going to be great. And you can also be on our website, the village website, so you can blow up the trees, the whole property, and you can get all the willow trees together, and hey, where are they all are? Where are the oak trees? And that type of stuff. So a learning process we're setting up for. Okay, and that's basically it. That's where we are right now. There's still work to be done, but we have to have approval for the wording and get some plaque. You've already approved behind the plaques that the labels are mounted on, and that order went out not too long ago for about $2,500 or $2,000, excuse me. And so we got to get all the whatever those 30 labels are at least up before we get approved by Morton Arboretum, so as an arboretum. So, any questions?
What is your expected date to have all the labels up on the trees?
Well, we've had about 10 dates so far.
Yeah.
It keeps going back. But I would say we'll be working very diligently around June to, 30 isn't going to be that hard, so. But, give or take a month. We want to get it done. We want to get it submitted, the application submitted, but we can't do it until we get at least the 30 labels mounted.
By the way, for the record, please note that I exercised the power of the authority, the prerogative of the chair, and extended the time that this presenter could speak to us beyond the normal 5-minute limit.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I do have a question.
Thank to the other two Joes
I got-
also.
Got a question
Oh,
here.
I'm sorry.
Yes. Joe.
You gotta be more specific.
Yes.
There's 3 of them.
Mr. Chair.
Is that the question?
No. The question, I noticed that the village of Glendale or Glendale, Ohio, does not appear on any of these labels or the QR code or anything of that nature, and there are numerous Glendales throughout the United States. So if one were to Google Glendale Arboretum, what would link that search to the village of Glendale, Ohio?
Well, that's a good question. So, I think.
Consider it.
We'll take that under advisement.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Yeah.
We can, there's things we can do with the metadata, but we could also do something. A lot of this is gonna be tied into Google Maps. So we can, I'll look into it more, but we'll get it figured out. It's a really good question.
Anything else? Thank you.
Any further discussion? I believe we have a motion on the table and a motion to dispense with 3 reads. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
For ordinance 2022-26, to dispense with the 3 reads, Mr. Bezel.
Aye.
Ms. Duke.
Aye.
Ms. Masenko.
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge.
Aye.
For the ordinance, Mr. Bezel.
Aye.
Ms. Duke.
Aye.
Ms. Masenko.
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, and we now go to ordinance 2022-27, an ordinance approving the installation of a plaque commending Boy Scout Maxwell Ehlers for the construction of a picnic shelter at Cleveland Park and declaring an emergency. Is Max here by chance? Okay.
He's not.
I hope he might be able to, but do I have a motion for this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
And a motion to dispense with 3 reads?
So moved.
Second. Okay. I'm just very happy to see this motion come forward. In the past, we have honored Eagle Scouts when they do a project in the village. I know we did it with Tom Kerr's son for what he did at a walkway into the police station. And I think it's just a wonderful way to acknowledge these young men and to also let the village know how thankful we should be to have motivated young people in the village who go to the initiative of getting their Eagle Scout and do something that really benefits the whole village. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, is there a date or year on this sign or plaque?
No, there's not.
If possible,
Yes.
yeah, right. If possible, it would be nice to have at least a year.
Let's take that up with, do we have the plaque already, David?
I believe that we do. We can always add a little tag or something to it.
Okay, see what we can do. That's a good thought. Any further discussion?
Okay. Ordinance 2022-27, to dispense with the three reads. Mr. Bessel?
Aye.
Ms. Duke?
Aye.
Ms. Masenko?
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler?
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge?
Aye.
For the ordinance, Mr. Bessel?
Aye.
Ms. Duke?
Aye.
Ms. Masenko?
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler?
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge?
Aye.
Thank you.
Ordinance 2022-28, an ordinance authorizing the village administrator to sign a memorandum of understanding between the Health Collaborative and the Village of Glendale related to the cooperative use of a generator and associated equipment and declaring an emergency. David, can you just give us a little background on this?
Certainly. And this will be kind of a refresher for Public Buildings Committee members. But the retired Fire Chief Kevin Hardwick had done some work with the Health Collaborative to secure a generator for the village. This is a 6-foot by 12-foot generator, so it's a large piece of equipment. This generator is coming to us from the Health Collaborative. They have 7 of these in the region that are not in use right now, and they want to get them out in the field into their into communities around us to deal with emergency situations. This MOU does give us the authority to collect the generator, including a tent and an HVAC unit that we have the ability to use during an emergency. The other side of the understanding is that if there is an emergency somewhere else in the region and we are not experiencing that emergency, that we are, if requested, able to provide that generator to the site of that emergency. And the Health Collaborative would contact us, and the fire department would be responsible with their equipment to transport it on the trailer with the tent to the location of that emergency. The generator could be installed or could be hooked up to a building. So, for instance, it could be hooked up to the new firehouse bay doors to power those should we have a long-term loss of power. It would be something that would be added to the village's insurance. And we would have a cooperative use agreement with the Health Collaborative, so it would still be their piece of equipment technically, but we would have free, unrestricted use of it, and assuming we perform general maintenance. Other than that, if there are any other questions, I'm happy to take them.
Oh, where would it be stored?
So the generator will be stored there. The fire department has a metal frame building down by the maintenance garage that has been agreed to by the Health Collaborative as an ideal location for storage.
Have a motion for the ordinance?
So moved.
Second. Motion to dispense with 3 reads?
So moved.
Second?
Okay. I think it's a big win for the village. You know, I mean, for one thing, we're contemplating being able to use this building, Town Hall, as a shelter for people in disasters or something like that, and this would be an ideal device to make that possible. But any other discussion?
I do have one more point, Mayor, if I may.
Please.
On the MOU, point 12, under liability, it does mention an indemnity and hold harmless clause. That will be struck from the final version of the agreement, per the advice of our solicitor.
Okay. Thank you for looking out for us, Kathy. Okay. Madam Clerk?
Ordinance 2022-28, to dispense with the 3 reads. Mr. Bessel?
Aye.
Ms. Duke?
Aye.
Ms. Masenko?
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler?
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge?
Aye.
For the ordinance, Mr. Bessel?
Aye.
Ms. Duke?
Aye.
Ms. Masenko?
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler?
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, we turn now to the resolutions. A resolution authorizing the village administrator to apply for Transportation Alternatives Grant funding as administered by the Ohio Department of Transportation. David, can you tell us a little bit about this one?
Certainly. So this grant funding comes to us courtesy of actually TEC Engineering reached out to me. They are the engineers that everyone knows is the ones that coordinated the improvements to the village square some years ago. They specialize in transportation grants, and so they approached me regarding the Odot Transportation Alternatives Grant funding, focuses on things like sidewalks. There's been plenty of discussion, and unfortunately we did have that incident about a year ago involving a pedestrian on the Oak Avenue area between South Troy and Chester. There's been discussion among council that we should look into a sidewalk for that area. So this grant application would propose a construction project that would total about $645,000 in total cost. That would include the construction of the sidewalk, but also extensive regrading and swale installation in the area to make sure that it doesn't create any stormwater issues. The village, it was an 80-20 grant match program, so the village would be responsible for about $129,000 of that $645,000. The grant only does only cover construction, so the village would be responsible for engineering design costs. Because this is an ODOT managed project, the expense on that is going to be a little bit higher. The engineer told us to anticipate about 30% of project cost, which is about $190,000. So that would be something that additionally the village would have to prepare. But that 80% of that project would be covered by ODOT, and they would oversee the construction once the village completes the design and bidding process. Work would begin in 2025, so we don't anticipate any kind of interference with the stormwater management work that we're proposing down in the Oak Green Belt currently. So.
Do I have a motion for this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. There's no need for waiving 3 reads on the resolution, so,
Questions?
Yeah.
speak.
Yes. Couple of questions. David, the sidewalk would go on the south side or the north side of the street?
It would go on the south side, the Greenbelt side of the street.
Okay. That alleviates the second and third question.
Okay.
Thank you.
The green,
Wait, the south side
the
of the
side
green belt.
of the street, or actually
Oh, I'm
in the
sorry.
green
Yeah,
belt?
the south side of Oak, about what a typical sidewalk distance from the street would be. So it would only be maybe a 6 or 10 foot gap between the street and the sidewalk.
Oh,
So the north side of the Greenbelt on the south side of Oak Avenue.
Right.
Not
See,
that.
Got
you
it.
didn't see
Got
it.
Very good. Bearing respect to trees that might be right in its
Of
path.
course,
And
yeah.
the creek that runs right there.
Well, and that's
There is a creek that runs, and that's what
That's
I
exactly
was
where it
going
would
to
be.
Yeah.
ask.
Right.
Well,
Will it replace the creek? Will it fill in that creek, or will the creek still be there as a runoff, or what's the configuration?
Those kinds of specifics we would address during the design process. Right now, we have a general proposal from the contract or from the engineer for this work. Of course, we would ensure, because we, as the village, have the authority over the design of the project. So through the engineer, would make sure that any stormwater systems that are in place would either be relocated and still functioning, or would not be disturbed by this work.
So the drawing that we were presented with is not the final?
Correct.
We're not accepting the drawing, we're merely authorizing the application for grant funding?
You're authorizing the village, me to apply for the grant funding through ODOT.
David, this
Yes.
potentially would start in 2025.
Correct.
When would we, Glendale, be on the hook for the engineering costs?
Engineering costs, design work would begin probably end of this year, early next year. So 2023, 2024 is when we would anticipate funding the engineering costs. Because the grant funding is construction only, so the design and engineering costs would be the responsibility of the village.
And you said that was 190 on top of the.
That was the estimate from the engineer. They did tell me that that is a very conservative estimate, but they do set aside, because this is an ODOT project, because it is ODOT funding, they do set aside, or tell clients to set aside 30% of the total project cost.
it seems more than I would expect. However, I think the ability to have an 80-20 match on construction is very good. And I wonder, I view this as being complementary to the water control work we do up there. So a lot of preliminary work might already be accomplished. We might know a lot about that area. And this could really complement water mitigation there versus be in its way.
I concur with that assessment.
David, one more time, the numbers, the total The total cost of the sidewalk would be 600.
So the estimate provided to me by the engineer is $645,000 for the entire project cost.
So we would be 120 of that.
So 129 or 20% would be the village's match on construction, and then the village would be responsible for the cost of design, which would be about 30% of that total project cost.
Okay.
I thought we could get a whole sidewalk for 100.
It's a long sidewalk.
Yes. There's a lot of earthwork to do, a lot of support work to do to pour concrete. There'll have to be a significant base there.
Mayor, was there in the last year or so, is there some sort of volunteer committee in Glendale that was talking about possibly doing a walking trail?
Yes.
Through there?
They have that. I think that'd be very different from this sidewalk project.
If I may, this actually was the engineer in our conversations identified that this would fall very well within the typical requirements for this grant funding because we're closing what's called a network gap, which is where we're putting a piece of sidewalk between two areas that don't or that have sidewalk but where it does not currently exist. So we would be connecting pieces of the village that aren't currently connected.
David, any sense of the potential for grants for the construction cost or the engineering costs on this?
Well, the construction costs, no, because it would be our 20% match of Odot. Now, as far as the design engineering costs, I can certainly inquire about that and report back. But my first understanding is that no, that would be our responsibility. We could pursue other grant funding for design work.
That's what I was asking.
But I have to see what options would be available to us.
Thank you.
It's 300,000 that the village is committing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering, David, can you push the engineers a little bit on this very conservative estimate to something that might be a little closer to reality? Because this doesn't, I mean, this really does seem, very high to me.
I agree.
And I'd like to just push back a little bit on them and see if they can give us.
So it is based on their estimated cost of construction. So I could talk to them about how they would be able to revise that to potentially lower it. But I don't, without speaking to them specifically, I don't know what options we would have as far as reducing it.
Yeah, David, if we don't vote tonight, is this within 30 days?
So the application is due on, I believe it's June 2nd. So we would have to move pretty quickly if a decision is made.
We're not obligated to take it. Are we?
Correct.
Right.
Council could vote down and
Right.
proceed with another option if they want to.
Yeah.
Well, it says in section 2, the village council does agree to obligate the funds required to satisfactorily complete the proposed project, et cetera, et cetera.
Isn't that if we actually take the grant?
Correct. So there's no obligation that we appropriate the funds or anything that formally tonight. It's really saying that if we apply for this, that we are saying we have the funds to meet our obligations under the grant application.
That's strong language right there, that we're agreeing to obligate the funds. Let me ask another more practical question. Is that part of the green belt located within the village of Woodlawn?
A portion of it is, yes.
And what can we do to obtain something in writing from the village of Woodlawn to support or approve this project within their village?
So I've spoken to the village manager of Woodlawn, and he has expressed his verbal support for the project. Of course, he would need to take it to get any kind of formal approvals, but nothing is required being in our property. Now, I could inquire about potentially them making some sort of financial contribution to the project potentially, seeing that it is within their jurisdiction. But that would be a conversation we would have to have.
I'm more interested in getting, in the village of Glendale, having something in writing from the village of Woodlawn, authorizing or in support of this project or construction in their municipality. Would we, on the other hand, allow the village of Woodlawn to construct a sidewalk or whatever in the village of Glendale without having written approval or authorization or support by the village of Glendale. I don't think so. So I'm just thinking that we need that written assurance that they are indeed supportive of this project.
Okay.
Well,
And
are you
supportive
saying
is,
supportive in the sense of they do not object to it, right? Not in that they're going to give us money for it.
Correct, I'm not asking them, I'm not suggesting that we ask them for money,
Right.
but I am asking us to have something in writing that, number one, they are knowledgeable and aware of this project and its construction being done within their municipality, and that they have no objection to it, the very least.
I can tell you from my experience that in dealing with Woodlawn on the Greenbelt area, they kind of have a laissez-faire approach to it. When we did the quiet zone, we had to do some work on the gates that was actually in Woodlawn. And so I went to them, I said, should I go to your planning commission? Should I go to your council? Should I get the permit? Do I need a permit for this or anything like that? They did, and I sent them a letter telling them what we were gonna do, and they just said, no, that's cool. So, yeah.
Which was about the reaction that I got. When
So we will do the same thing. We will
Something in
try, we will
writing.
do our best. At least it'll be a unilateral sort of contract where we say, we're going to do this, please tell us if you object, something like that.
One last,
Sure.
just confirm for me. So the 80-20 match applies only, well, obviously, to the 645. That's
Correct, to the construction cost.
Okay. And it is.
We have
This is
a
crazy.
motion for the resolution. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk?
Well, one more question. Have you asked for any other bids from any other company about what it would cost to build that sidewalk?
Good point.
So the project would be, as far as engineering bids,
Engineering and construction, what would it cost to build that sidewalk?
so we would bid, well, obviously we would bid the job
Right.
prior to selecting a contractor, which would give us where that 645 would actually, what that number would actually be. But no, I haven't spoken to any other engineers about the project to come up with a cost.
Okay. How wide is it?
The sidewalk?
Yep.
I believe it's 6 foot.
Five.
Is it 5?
5 feet standard.
There are standards for a
Correct.
sidewalk.
ADA
public
compliances are
sidewalk.
minimum of 5 foot.
It's half a mile long.
It's half mile long, that's the
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. It's
So it's a long
treacherous
sidewalk.
ground
You're
on it.
starting with just raw ground.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's within reason. I mean, I've
Earth
done a lot of work like
removal.
that.
Regrading, stormwater management, all those parts of
No tree removal, right?
Yes, there will be.
Whatever is
Sure.
required.
whatever is
That's-
required
yeah.
to.
Because there are trees along that bank.
Unless we go around it.
You can go
You
around
can
it.
go around it.
Labyrinth.
For any amount of money, you can do anything.
And then the sidewalk will lift up 10 years down the road. That's beside the point, so.
We got that grinder that fixes that.
And that's free, the grinding is free.
It's not free.
Okay.
Anyways,
Any further discussion of this resolution? Madam Clerk?
2022-14, for the resolution, Mr. Bessel,
Aye.
Ms. Duke,
Aye.
Ms. Masenko,
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler,
No.
Ms. Baldridge.
Aye.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to change my aye to a no. I am very uncomfortable with section 2.
Maybe if you have a question that our solicitor could address?
Now, I have no question, I just don't support the way it's worded. I understand what it says. I do not support the way.
But are you taking
it's
it as an
worded.
obligation on the part of the village if, just by
Does
submitting
agree
this
to
grant
obligate the
application?
funds required to complete the proposed project, yes. Yes, sir. Yes, I do. That's what it says.
Under the terms of the grant program.
Mm-hmm,
Okay.
yeah.
So you said, David, ultimately we can reject this grant. If it's awarded, we can just say no.
Correct. We would
If we decide
I mean,
no, we
yeah,
just-
they would
Okay.
probably be confused, but yes,
I'm sure
we
they
would
would
walk,
be.
we could be able to walk, we would be able to walk away.
Well, I think practically speaking, there were 3-2 votes.
Yeah.
So this resolution would pass.
Yes.
And at the same time, I hope, David, you're hearing that there is some hesitancy among some council members that could be cleared up between now and a decision made on the grant application, so that there are some concerns with costs, for instance, with bidding it out, concerns with merging this project with the overall water, what do you call it, water project coming down Oak Avenue and the Green Belt. So we can hopefully get more coordination and lower costs with this between now and the time council is asked to accept or reject a grant.
So I can address the one question about the stormwater management. I did make very clear to TEC about our plans in the Oak Avenue Greenbelt as they are currently, and they indicated that there would be no potential for interference or interruption with the stormwater management, that they would be able to design around the existing systems with the construction of the sidewalk when the time comes in 2024, 2025.
Okay. Resolution passes by a 3-2 vote. We turn to Resolution 2022-15, a resolution requesting the county auditor to certify the current tax valuation of and the amount of revenue that will be produced by a renewal of the 8.5 mil levy to provide funds for the current general operating expenses of the Village of Glendale, Hamilton County, Ohio, pursuant to Section 5705.19A of the Ohio Revised Code as required by Section 5705.03B of the Ohio Revised Code. This is the renewal of our existing 8 mil levy, which is due to expire at the end of this year. Do I have a motion for this resolution?
So moved.
Second?
Okay. Discussion? Madam Clerk?
Resolution 2022-15. Mr. Bessel.
Aye.
Ms. Duke.
Aye.
Ms. Masenko.
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge.
Aye.
Thank you.
We turn to Resolution 2022-16, a resolution requesting the county auditors to certify the current tax valuation of and the amount of revenue that will be produced by an additional 2.5 mil levy to provide funds for the current general operating expenses of the Village of Glendale, Hamilton County, Ohio, pursuant to Section 5705.19A of the Ohio Revised Code as required by Section 5705.03B of the Ohio Revised Code. Do I have a motion for this resolution?
So moved.
Second?
Discussion.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I find this a disappointing resolution. For more than 10 years now, Glendale's revenues have remained flat. At the same time, the compounded inflation rate has risen more than 25%. We all agree on this, and we all agree that we need additional revenue in the village. Yet the direction we're headed in tonight will raise property taxes barely enough to keep our heads above water for 2 years. It will simply maintain the status quo and do nothing to respond to residents who have asked for better streets and playgrounds, improved communications, street lights that work, green spaces with walking paths and other features. It will do nothing to help us address the need for a new fire truck in another year or pay our public works personnel a competitive wage. What's worse, the odds are very good we'll have to go back to residents for yet another levy increase in 2 years. We have other reasonable options that would enable us to address the concerns of residents and maintain a balanced budget into 2027. Yet here we are, kicking the can down the road. I'm disappointed in this council. I find the addition of a 2.5 mill levy completely unacceptable and will not support this first step toward putting it on the ballot. Thank you.
I also would like to speak. Councilman, Mr. Jeff Baysmith also cared enough to send in a notice. He couldn't be here tonight, but I will just read what he asked to have read. To Council, I fully support the renewal of our existing levy of 8.5 mills, essential to the financial health of our village. An additional levy of 2.5 mills is being proposed for approval. I feel that this is an interim solution which will regularly require that we revisit and renew this levy while not consistently providing for the long-term financial needs of the village. I vote nay for this ordinance. Jeffrey Baysmith, Councilman. And then I also would like to share my thoughts, which I know my colleagues are familiar with, but I have also great difficulty supporting the new proposed levy that we're talking about pursuing because two primary reasons. One is I believe that it puts the village at financial risk to have two property tax related issues on the ballot. We desperately need the renewal of the 8.5 mil levy. That is nearly half of our village's income, and I do not want to risk having that voted down because voters opted to vote maybe for one and not that. The other reason is it is just not enough. As Nancy mentioned, it would take us through a year or two of continuing to scrape by in survival mode. And that's not what I believe most of our residents want. I think we need better. We've all seen the numbers. We've looked at the numbers from different angles. We've seen the bar graphs, and we know exactly what is needed, or we have a very clear idea of what is needed to make this village not just survive, but thrive. A sustainable path forward, and this is not it. So I can't support this.
Any further discussion?
I'll say a few words quickly as the finance chair. This is very good discussion, by the way, and reflects a lot of the discussion that was had through 3 meetings. And I'm going to estimate probably 6 to 7 hours of deliberation through those 3 meetings. And these are good viewpoints. A couple of things just to make sure that we understand what we're looking at. It was pointed out very well, the 8.5 mil levy is a renewal. That is a levy that we need to pass. Without that levy passing, we shut the village down, in effect. We can't function without that. That levy has been in place now for a number of years. What we're talking about now is 2 things. Additional tax monies that we asked for several years ago, so that we could, 1, not only keep up with inflation, but 2, improve the look of the village and improve village services. And there's no doubt that we would like to improve the village services. A couple of things that were said, I want to make sure that we're clear on what those are. A new fire truck would be purchased through VPGI funding, and that has been a part of VPGI planning documents for invested funds for quite a while. We just can't settle on when do we need it, what do we specifically need. Is it a new truck? Is it a used truck? Is it a smaller truck? Is it a bigger truck? But we do need to home in on that. That currently resides in projections. The Public Works making sure that we're able to provide compensation in line with what is similar in other villages. We've tried to catch that up. I think according to our Public Works Director, we're in line with where we should be. What we're missing is, I won't say man hours, person hours. We're not able to keep up with the work in the village. We're not able to keep up with mowing green belts, and that's been going on for quite some time. I personally don't think that we have enough manpower to achieve what needs to be done to have the village looking first class. That is, mowing the green belts, taking care of the sidewalks, etc. So we did discuss all of this in the meeting. There were several ideas brought forward. We worked very hard through, I think, 5 motions to try to get something that people could coalesce around. And it's very hard herding the cats when you don't have the answers. You know, you can see what you want to do, but you don't quite know how to get there. I will admit that part of our concern as we were discussing this was, what will the village voters accept? We tried 2.5 mil levy additional 4 years ago, or I think it was 4 years ago, possibly. Well, it wouldn't have been 5, but a number of years ago. And
2019.
I
believe so.
It did not pass.
Correct.
And there are all kinds of reasons, but all I can assume is that it was a bridge too far. People thought it was too much. Are people ready now to vote for more? I don't know. But it was put out on the table, what about a 3 mil additional levy? And people said no. It was put on the table, what if we have an income tax? And that did not achieve a majority of vote. So my question tonight, then, a big long-winded way to kind of bring this back, the village needs more revenue. Through 3 meetings, we decided this might be the best way to get the more revenue, although we all know that it does fall somewhat short of being able to carry us for, say, a 5-year period. If not this, what do we do? Do we just say we're not going to do additional revenue and try to find something else and focus on the 8.5 mil levy? Or is there another way to do this? And now I'll stop and see where we go.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to continue with where Mr. Bessel left off, because we did have extensive discussions in at least 2, or if not 3, Finance Committee meetings this year. And there has been talk along the lines of imposing a new income tax on village residents back in 2019 and in 2016 when I was Clerk Treasurer. So the options that we in the Finance Committee recently considered, discussed at length, received motions, and voted on each of the 5 motions, ranged from imposing a new income tax on village residents, and that motion failed. Another option was adopting an additional 2.0 mil levy, tax levy, 2.0 tax levy, in addition to the renewal levy. And that motion failed after extensive discussion and voting. We then considered the option of a new 5% income tax on the general ballot on the general election ballot in November. I'm sorry, 0.05%. 0.05%.
0.5.
Half percent.
A half of 1%.
There you go.
Okay, a half of 1%. 0.5%. I want to be real clear on
Here
that,
again.
because that motion failed also. And so we looked at the numbers, our revenue, our projected expenses for a 2-year period, for a 3-year period, and we entertained a motion to put an 8.5 mil tax levy, that's the renewal, and an additional 3 mil tax levy on the November ballot, and that motion failed. So after extensive discussion, conversation, and consideration of the needs of the village and the realities before us and our residents, the Finance Committee finally passed a motion to authorize the renewal of 8.5 tax levy and to seek an additional 2.5 tax levy on the November general election. That motion passed. That motion passed. Yes, there were some members dissenting and not supporting that motion. That's the nature of being a council person. But nevertheless, a majority of council on the Finance Committee voted to pass that motion, and that is what is brought before this body tonight. I continue to support the placement of the 8.5 tax levy on the November ballot as a renewal and an additional 2.5 tax levy on the November ballot for the voters to vote upon. I oppose the imposition of a new income tax in the village of Glendale, imposed unilaterally by council, without having that placed on a ballot for the voters to discuss, consider, and act on when they vote. Some members of council support that imposition by council of a new income tax. I oppose it.
Okay.
So given the options, this is what we have tonight.
So I would like to ask David one more question and then open it up to even further discussion if we need to. What we're doing now is asking the auditor to certify what revenue would be brought in additional if we asked for 2.5 mils more.
Correct.
Can we, through the same resolution or additional resolutions, which would be easy, ask what would be brought in if it was a 3 mil additional levy or a 4 mil additional levy?
I don't see any reason why we couldn't do that, and council just pass additional resolutions for each. For the sake of the procedure for putting these on the ballot, they would need to be each individual resolutions, but council could decide to add additional resolutions for each new or additional proposed millage.
Because we won't say put it on the ballot until after the auditor has given us the amount.
Correct.
So we're not actually putting it on the ballot tonight, we're just finding out.
That is correct.
Okay. So that's one potential option. And then another potential option would be the income tax, and after that, all I can say is buy lottery tickets and hope. That's not a plan. So that's another way, but again, now, those are other options. So is there any more thoughts, discussions?
Briefly, sorry, go ahead.
You can choose to spend down our savings account to bridge caps in future years, to continue to invest in the village. But, that's probably not the right thing to do, just because the village does have to live in perpetuity. And our savings account is to just manage some big chunks occasionally. But we can't just continue.
VPGI you're talking about?
VPGI.
Which has gone down last year, it's going down this year.
Right. Because we use it. We used it to repave Sharon Road. We use it to buy our police vehicles. We use it to, we will use it to buy the fire truck. we will use it for larger expenses that are unusual and not day-to-day expenses. And so that will continue to be used. There may be some more creative ways to utilize that money, and in between time, I'm happy to have a finance committee meeting between now and the next meeting, so that we can look at maybe some more creative ways to use that, but that may be something that council ultimately does not want to do. I know most of us are focused on the idea that we can earn interest there, and that interest can be used in perpetuity, if we're careful, to purchase major equipment that the village needs, and to spend down our savings. If you were running your household, you wouldn't use your savings account to pay your electric bill. So that's been the philosophy, but those are options. So I'm sorry, Amy, you had a comment, and then we'll.
Well, we've talked briefly in Finance Committee about getting a more accurate picture of what the public thinks about this. And so I think we should discuss next time using something like a SurveyMonkey link attached to a village newsletter with a very simple poll, couple of options to take the pulse on everyone who responds, where they stand on income tax versus additional property tax and that sort of thing. I don't think it's very hard to do that. And I think would give us much more response than asking people to come to a town hall, which we should do. But the reality of the way the culture works right now, I think clicking on a link on your smartphone is going to get you a whole lot more responses from people.
I don't think we're allowed to do that on a village email. I think that's non-political. The Friday night email that we send out, then that
We'll
would
look
be.
into it, but I think as long as we are not advocating.
I think the more knowledge, the better.
Yeah,
As long as
just
we're not advocating
opinions.
for
Ask-
tax,
asking
but
for
simply
opinions.
asking the opinion of the residents
Yes.
about a tax.
These are options. What would
I
you
mean,
choose?
Kathy?
Yeah, I think if it's worded where maybe it's, what options are, do you think are beneficial, and have like an option, a blank, and then have
Yeah.
some of what you've talked about tonight.
It's a
Something
phrase
that just
completely
leaves it
neutral.
open and just kind of get the sense of what
Yeah.
people.
I'm imagining what would you prefer, and then have A through D or whatever. And you could
Mr.
select
Mayor?
one of those.
Yes.
I think Will had a comment.
I'm sorry, quick one. David, on,
Yes.
on the third whereas on this resolution.
Which one are you on?
All right, so
16?
yeah, for the 2.5.
Yes.
I'm just making sure I'm reading this correctly. It approximately generates $275,750,000 per year. An additional levy is necessary in excess of the 10 mil limitation. What does that mean, the 10 mil? So if we only took this up to 10 mil, does that mean?
No, so we are only permitted to levy up to 10 mils without a vote, and then after 10, we have to pass legislation. That's the inside.
So this council could do up to 10.
No, it already is.
We're way
it's
past
done.
that.
It's already done.
It's yeah.
Even though it's 8.5.
But the whole millage that we
yeah.
have is 20
Between the
plus
two.
change.
It's 20.
Gotcha.
Right, so that's.
I mean,
that's
the
maxed
reality,
out.
it's a simple calculation. We have, we know what we're gonna get. I provided that information to council already. What 8.5 mil, now, it's not official until we make an official request on that, but the numbers will be identical. So
Right.
we know what 8.5 will give us. You could just scale up, scale down, 2.5, 4.0, 3.0, you get the numbers. I mean, it's a very basic math.
Not to take myself out of a job here. Sorry,
Yeah,
Will,
and
but
then
not-
one more, just to follow up
Yeah.
on what Marilyn said, since all 6 council members are on the finance committee, it needed 4 votes. Anything to get a motion to get out of there needed the 4 votes, so, but Marilyn was talking, there were 5 attempts to get the 4th vote,
Sure.
so.
Marilyn, did you have something else?
Yes, I have concerns with doing a SurveyMonkey that is accessed online or by the newsletter, because we already know a number of residents do not readily have access to the internet.
Sure.
But yet they vote.
Right.
They vote, and they are residents.
I wonder if this is something we can take up in the finance
I
committee.
think we should,
meeting.
yes.
Yeah, that really
I think we should.
the whole point is, how do we take the temperature of the village on this issue? What's the best means for doing it? And that's more of
Let's
a
do that in
committee type
finance, but-
piece of business.
Now, are there any other comments, and then is there an appetite to take a vote on this, I guess, huh?
Can I ask that question?
You can, yes.
Oh, good, okay. Is there any other, is there an appetite to take a vote on this?
I wonder if there are other comments, though.
I think we're commented out
Are
at
we?
this point.
Okay, Nancy, did you have
Madam-
anything else?
John?
Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
For Resolution 2022-16, Mr. Bessel,
Aye.
Ms. Duke,
Aye.
Ms. Masenko,
No. Nay. Excuse me, nay.
Mr. Kreidler,
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge.
Nay.
Thank you.
Okay, the ayes have it.
I'm sorry, what's the vote on this
3 to 2.
resolution?
It's 3 to 2.
3 to,
That's
Pass.
the majority, so this
Yes.
resolution passes.
Correct.
Thank you.
Don, do we want to inquire about any other amounts? If we feel that we need more funding,
Would you care to make a proposal on that regard?
well, don't necessarily want to. I didn't know if others did.
Open to hearing.
So that we have
other
an
ideas,
official
yeah.
document.
But again,
Right.
yeah,
Right,
yeah,
so
because
we
this,
can have
if
an
we're going,
official
okay, look,
document if we need to look at
if
other
we're talking
amounts.
about a levy, we really need to get moving on it. And
We
that
need
is
to
to say,
happen
we have to
now.
get something into the auditor's office, so we can get the number back from him, so we can then push, move it forward. If we're talking about a potential, another kind of tax, an income tax, which doesn't have to be imposed, it can be it can be a ballot issue, just like a levy, but it doesn't require this early, request from the auditor. So we have some time to work if that's the direction we want to go in. So, but the question is, if people want another levy amount to be considered, now's probably the time to request it.
But how could we do that if we can't see how the impact on the budget, if we can't see how far it'll take us out?
Well, I think you saw it. Didn't we see that?
We did.
David was flashing the numbers up at the meeting, and we know that this one's going to take us through, 2.5 mils would take us through about 2 years. So you put
Close to
another
3
half mil
now
on
that it's
there.
275, because we considered 250, that's 275, it's just 25,000 more only. And we've also found out there is not going to be an increase in our healthcare costs for a year or two.
Next 2 years.
Next 2 years.
Next 2 years.
Okay,
So that's
good.
another help. So it's small amounts and it all helps.
Yeah.
So
Thanks for not getting sick.
Well,
2.5.
But there's no projects built into those expenses. It's just
No,
covering
those would
costs.
have to
Yeah.
come from VPGI.
Yeah.
There's no additional workers or extra time built into those. That would all just come, that would have to come from additional operating revenue.
I'm sorry, I've only got the printout showing the impact of the 2 mil. I don't have, I'm sorry, I don't have it before me.
I think
Maybe someone else does.
you would add, unless I'm incorrect, using the 275 number, you would add with a 3 mil, 330,000.
Each mill is about 110,000.
110, okay. So that would be 330,000.
Each new mill. Yes.
Then we have it, and we may want to just move on.
I'm
think we
thinking
wanna
this is
move on.
starting to
Not the
turn into a
time.
finance committee meeting.
Yes, it is.
And yeah, I'd like
So
to
we've
just,
been through this
we should
discussion.
have one, to just look again at what are the other options available to us, and how might we achieve some additional revenue for us.
Mayor,
Mr. Mayor,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Mary.
For the passage of the resolution, it should be the majority of the members, not the members present for that resolution. So
Okay.
we got the 3.
So we have 3 and then 3.
well,
Then-
Jeff Bay Smith is not here and cannot vote in
Can
absentia.
Can I vote on this?
No,
No.
but that's the distinction. Some
Yeah.
things allow members present, majority of members present. And I just wanted to make sure I pulled it back up.
No.
Majority of for that type, majority of members. So it's
So this would not
3.
pass today?
correct.
Okay.
Additionally, 14 would not pass as well. the sidewalk
That would not pass.
because it was 3-2.
Well, the sidewalk was 3-2, so the sidewalk did not
So
pass.
I'm not sure if that's the way we've been construing the resolutions, Mr. Mayor. Yep.
I think she's right, though. This-
So,
I think
Okay.
it's normally you have to get the vote is based on the number of sitting members, and in fact, it's the number of seats. Even if you have a vacancy, that you have to still get a majority of the seats of council approving something. I don't think we haven't, we've had very
We've
little
had
times
this-
when we've had to have a vote that wasn't, pretty clear.
well, the bottom line I'm hearing from the presiding officer is that Resolution 2022-15 does not pass, and that ordinance or resolution 2022-14 does not pass either.
Correct. 14 and 16 do not pass.
14 and 16
Right.
fail.
Fail.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. So no sidewalk and then no,
That's
so if we have another finance committee meeting then,
Yeah.
we'd have to have a special council meeting to see if
Correct.
we want to add anything on. But for now, the 2.5 mil, we won't, that will not move forward. Gotcha. Okay,
So we
David,
move
what's our-
forward with the 8.5
that moves.
Yes.
on the ballot.
Okay, very good.
And on the sidewalk, are we losing anything at this point by delaying, let's say?
Just that the application is due the first week of June. So
Yeah,
if we
so-
want to proceed, we
Well,
need,
unfortunately, our next meeting, regular meeting is the 6th.
correct.
Correct, so we'll miss that.
It's due before the June meeting. I
Before the
believe
next
it's the
meeting.
second.
So we'll miss
or
that
third.
without a special meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a big miss.
That's
That's
a big
a
miss.
lot of free money with an expense.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of free.
Sort of free.
Yeah, wow.
Okay.
Okay. We will then go into reports, standing reports of the mayor, administrators, standing committees, and special committees. I will begin with the mayor's report. Now, in light of time, I will try to keep it brief. We had no births reported. We had 2 deaths. A former resident, William G. Gray, passed away on March 31st at the age of 80. And former resident Paul Allen, husband of Marjorie Yerger Allen, passed away April 5th at the age of 84. Can we have a moment of silence? May they rest in peace. I'm gonna try not to give it short shrift because it was a really wonderful day. We had the volunteer cleanup day on last Saturday, April 30th. We had 75 volunteers, including firefighters and scouts from Scout Troop 417. Work was done all over the village on various projects. They planted wildflowers, cleaned up and mulched, planting in flower beds, painting. I can personally attest to the fact that painting was done under the leadership of our treasurer, and we went to, we worked at Washington and Summit Parks, the Greenbelt, other public spaces, and I've just got to give a thanks and a big shout out to Beverly Rickoff and Cindy Taylor, who organized this thing for the 2nd year in a row. It really, you walk through the village now and you can look at just the great work that has been done. We had finally, I've got to add, we had some donations that, from local businesses that made this possible. Casanelli, Glendale Nurseries donated ground cover plantings. UDF donated water bottles, which were very welcome. And Holly and John, Ten Hunfeld, kicked in with some trash can liners and gloves. So all around, it's just what Glendale is all about, is people coming together voluntarily and getting the job done. Very quickly, I'm going to acknowledge that we have received a report from Miami University students who worked on a project called Project Capstone. They're students in government and communications, and we had asked, they had asked us, could they do a study of something in the village that was of interest to us? And since it was right about the time we were thinking about a communications forum, I said, yeah, we need to improve our communications. They came up with some ideas on the newsletter, on the website, and also for social media. Council has received copies of the report, and we will be discussing it in the future. It will be posted on the village website for anybody who wants to take a look at it. And I hope it's going to be an incremental step forward in improving communication between the village government and the residents. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Administrator Lumsden.
Thank you, Mayor. The hot topic during every administrator's report at council, the 65 Coral demolition is underway right now. The contractor is, and I, for the life of me, don't know why, but is clearing out the inside of the house, and I wish him well in that. Folks driving by might see the excavator out front. So once the work inside the house is done and we get a good stretch of weather, then the house itself will start to come down. I am very excited to report that we have received a windfall in additional ARPA grant funds totaling $456. Represents the village's additional share from communities that did not take advantage of that federal funding. So that has been deposited and booked, so we're proud recipients of that. We have installed, or Tom has installed, benches at Cleveland Park, put 3 of them in along the street side to catch any wandering children that might find their way off the playground equipment towards Cleveland Avenue. So those have been installed. The flow meters, which the members of the Utilities Committee are familiar with, were delivered today. So we're excited to get started. Kevin and his crew are excited to get started with training on those. And then looking forward, we do have a Streets Committee meeting, not to steal Mike's thunder, but a Streets Committee meeting on the 9th, where we will be discussing the preliminary report from the engineers on the Oak, Hedgerow, Albion stormwater study. And I'm very excited for that meeting, and I think the results from that study are going to be very informative. And additionally, I'm encouraging council members to keep an eye on your email. This week, I'm going to be sending out an invite. We're hosting a Sunshine Law virtual training on June 8th at the village office. So if you're available, please stop by. I remember a few months ago, I think a certain mayor did say he would spring for lunch. So,
Well, you've got the 400 and something.
Yeah, there you go.
we'll Matt. Yeah, exactly. We'll split it. But yeah, that will be scheduled for June 8th. So details are coming. So thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Finance Committee, please.
So the Finance Committee did meet. We almost met again right here in front of everybody, but we'll take that to another meeting. I think it's clear what we covered in the Finance Committee meeting, so I'd like to just move towards trying to schedule another meeting. When is everybody available? And if we are going to submit to auditor, we're under the gun a bit, so I would suggest we do it. David, if we can agree to something in June, are we still okay? Does that meet auditor's requirements? And we may not come up with a number for that. It's just, I want to be prepared to do something at our June meeting. So I am very flexible next week and the week after. So and I prefer, let's see,
10 or
we
the
don't want to,
11?
we don't want to do for the streets, with the streets committee. That's going to be a long meeting. So 10, 11 I can't, but 10 or 12. How's everybody look? Will Jeff be back?
Yeah, when does he get
Oh, I don't know.
I think there's already a meeting on the 12th.
Fire committee.
Fire.
Yeah, that's
Fire's
true,
on
yeah.
12th? Okay. So, does the 10th work?
I'm not available next week.
Not available at all? Okay. So now we're to the week of the 16th.
And I'm not available that week.
Okay. Sure you don't want to vote tonight? So,
Amy, you're not available the entire week?
Of the 16th.
The 16th you're out? At some point, I'm going to take a vacation and that'll
So
be.
23rd or 24th?
So we have 20, 23, 24, not 25, 26 or 27.
We have
23.
26 or 27.
Okay. Everybody look okay for one of those days?
like an afternoon again, or?
Yeah, we would go in the afternoon. Have we been meeting what time?
About 3 o'clock.
3
I
o'clock?
should point out the 27th is Friday,
Yeah.
before Memorial
Let's
Day
not do
weekend.
that.
And the
Oh, yeah, that's
26th I
bad.
can't do,
You can't do 26, okay. So what about 24?
I'm not.
Not? How
or
about-
25.
How about 23?
23rd.
Yeah.
Does 23 work?
is-
Yeah.
No, Maryland, not? Okay, how about 25?
Mm.
25, I just have to be out by 5:30.
Yeah, that's a similar situation.
We go back to the 11th?
So,
Yeah.
yeah, does the 11th work for everybody?
Not me.
And
I'm
we'll
out that
meet at
week.
3. It should be a short meeting.
I'm
I
out.
just figured it out right here while we're sitting. I'm not gonna say the numbers, but, you're not here the 11th.
not
Okay,
here.
you're not here the 11th.
That whole week
I don't know what
is,
you're going.
So
booked.
you're
Yes.
gone.
What about this week?
What about this week?
This
Oh,
week
Jeff's
is gone
Jeff's
too.
gone.
Yeah.
Okay. So 9th Maryland is out, 16 through.
Mayor, are we allowed to meet on Zoom? If that
No.
makes it easy? No.
Yeah, we can't
Not-
vote. You can't-
We can't vote on anything, but people can participate by Zoom.
You'd be making a
Right.
recommendation.
Well, that's a vote.
That's a vote, huh? All right. So now we're looking at the week of the 29th.
Well, 30th is.
So Monday's
30th is a
Memorial
holiday.
Day.
Right.
31, or any other day that week. Well, or any other day that week. Now, wait a minute. We said 27th's no good because it's a Friday, right? Oh, that's Friday before
Sunday said it was
Memorial
no
Day.
good, I thought.
Okay.
Well,
So-
I guess we could. I
Mayor?
just thought some people might take the 4 day.
They might
like a
take
3 or 4
the
day.
holiday.
There is
Well, is anybody doing
the
that?
ability now,
Probably
they've
is.
updated that through June 30th, 2022 for the remote.
I can
What?
do that, I can do that.
Wait, what?
Wait a minute, we have new news here.
We can do a Zoom.
Yeah, DeWine had signed in the bill allowing virtual meetings until July 1st, 2022.
So we can have a virtual, we can have a Zoom meeting.
Well, we were told
Is
that
that
we
anyone?
could not, because I had brought up that very matter in the month of February. So
Yeah,
when did
exactly.
DeWine decide, sign that bill?
That was at the end of February.
The end of February?
Yeah. It kind of lagged behind all the time we actually needed it.
Does that help?
Yeah.
But
Does that help anyone the week of 16th? We could do Zoom. I know on the 19th we have
Watching my
water.
family on the beach while I
Yeah,
Zoom with
that'd
you.
be fun.
Well,
That's fine.
and you guys are
Yes, all
assuming Jeff
day.
can meet any of these dates.
That's
That's
right.
the other.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we'll,
You may want to go
Um,
online and try to set a date.
Yeah.
maybe we'll set it up online.
Yeah.
Just for the heck of it, June the 1st or the 2nd or May 31, how does that look for everybody?
May 31 could work.
Yeah,
That could work, everybody?
yeah.
May 31 could
Yes.
work.
So it's May 31 unless we find out something else, but I will follow up on, with Jeff. And if we can do Zoom, maybe we try Zoom.
Yeah.
Okay.
What
But I-
time, Mike? 4?
Yeah, it would be at 3. Let's make it at 3.
Okay.
All right, that's it for finance, thanks.
Okay.
Fire committee, please.
Fire committee did not meet in April, but we have a meeting scheduled for the 12th, when we anticipate a report from the interim fire chief on the state of the department, an update on Sharonville EMS financials, and other operational matters. Other than that, I am happy to turn it over to Captain Lehrman.
Thank you. Yeah, just a few things that I want to highlight from this past month at the fire department. Our last meeting, I mentioned that we were nearing the end of a volunteer fire course with 8 members, and I'm happy to pass on that all 8 of those members passed on their first attempt. The state average for that course on the first attempt is 42%.
Wow.
We had 100%, so I think that speaks to our volunteers and to our instructors on the department to get that. We had a really busy month for training. Most of you saw the big trailer, and I want to thank a few of the council people that attended, and the treasurer. Hopefully that was an experience for you all to attend that, so I appreciate that. We had Duke Energy come in and do some live line electric demos for us. And then we also attended the Hamilton County Mass Casualty Incident Training in Amberley Village last month as well. So we are also moving to a new schedule with our staff. It's the first time that we've been able to do this to better ensure coverage around the clock for the village. So this is our first month of trial, so hopefully that'll work out, and we'll keep you posted on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Laws and claims, please.
Laws and claims did not meet in April. And the ordinance, the proposed ordinance that we've been working on naming public properties, will hopefully be presented to council in the June meeting. It was inadvertently left off the agenda for this meeting, but there have been no other changes since the committee met.
Can you forward me a final version?
You have it? Do you want a Word doc, or you have the PDF? That is the final version.
Oh, were there not changes at the last meeting? I thought that there were
That
changes.
was the last meeting. March 31st was the last meeting.
Okay.
And
I'll review because I don't remember
it is on
receiving.
the website. That's how I know you have it.
Okay, so that is
Alright.
the final version?
Yes, but I can send you the Word doc.
Yeah, I would appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Police committee, please.
Police did meet on April 27th last week, and thanks to Nancy and Amy for getting together so quickly. And what we went over was what happened tonight with the promotion of officers Hilling and Barber to become sergeants. And there was a pay increase for those two. And we also discussed Clerk Virginia Wagner's in June. She'll get a pay increase as well after her 1-year probationary term. And that was it, and I'll turn it over to Chief Walsh.
I've got no report.
That's easy.
Thank you. Public buildings, please.
Public buildings also met on April 19th, and we try to do this twice a year. We kind of go through a project list for the upcoming year, review what happened over the winter, and we went through each public building, and those notes are, those draft minutes are posted online. And we also discussed the firehouse training room rental rates, and we kicked that around, and an email is with everyone, and we'll try to finalize that this month, and then I guess get that passed on next month's full council meeting. And I believe that was it. And those I'll get those to you tomorrow, David.
Okay.
Or no, I'm sorry, I'll get you the police meeting minutes. Public's already been posted.
Okay.
The police one I need to get to you.
Thank you.
And that's it, Becky.
Thank you. Recreation and playgrounds, please.
We did meet, I believe it was April 14th. Those minutes are posted, the draft minutes. We're meeting again tomorrow, actually, on location at Washington Park in order just to include a plot there that might be considered also by the Brock Foundation. So the primary discussion in the last meeting was about the courts, tennis and pickleball courts.
Thank you. Streets, public improvement, and lights.
The Streets Committee did meet and will be meeting on the 9th of this month. And the main topic there, as David has already pointed to, is the water containment work on the Oak Hedgerow Albion area. We have we've seen a preliminary report from the engineer. They're gonna go back and modify some things and then send that back to David. Hoping to have that back from them in time to get that online before that meeting so that residents have a chance to review that information. There's a lot to it. I'm impressed with Kleinger's and Sam and the work that they've done so far. It's very thorough. They are somewhat limited in what they can do on private property. They can have suggestions for private property. We will be able to talk with Bethany somewhat about their property. Things are falling into place there rather well, and I'd like to recognize David and all of his hard work in this. Thank you, David.
Thanks.
All right. That's it for streets.
Thank you. Utilities, please.
Utility Committee Chair Jeff Bay Smith asked me to give a brief report on the committee meeting. The committee met on the committee met on April the 20th. And among the deliberations, we reviewed the data on time and cost estimates to manually read the water meters in the village and discuss cost savings and benefits to village residents if the system of manually reading the meters were replaced through remote control readers. After discussing options for financing and upgrading the 17-year-old meter system, the Utilities Committee recommends the administration pursue a request for proposals. And the chair, Jeff Bay Smith, will be here next month to detail that a bit further. So I would urge that council members anticipate a request for proposals coming to address the replacement of the meters. We also heard an update on the CMOM and the status of water leak detection in the village. Finally, a meeting was scheduled for May 19th at 4 o'clock. Once again, Utilities Committee meeting is scheduled for May 19th at 4 o'clock. And that concludes the Utilities Committee meeting report. Thank you.
Thank you.
And reports from the Clerk and Treasurer. Madam Clerk?
I have none. Thank you.
Mr. Treasurer?
Members of council have received my investment report summary for the month of April. Also want to share that we just recently purchased some treasury notes at for about $500,000 that yield about 2.35%. So that's a little more encouraging. We're going to be looking at other opportunities here with some money that we have in one of our banks that is not earning much of anything. So that's that. In as much as I've been called a racist again by a resident that is no longer here, I definitely will open the gate to any resident that would like to have information on what happened. I have the letter that could be provided. The other piece is, as Councilwoman is leaving here, I would encourage her, she contact the State of Ohio Ethics Commission to see if anything that I have done violates any of the guidelines that they've set in front of us. And that way we could have this thing open. So that's my treasurer's report.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'll step down as councilwoman to say this. I have received a number of emails written by Mr. Bogran on his village email address. They have been distributed to a number of residents and various other elected officials. I did not receive all of the emails. Nevertheless, what I saw was sufficient for me and my family to seek legal counsel and to contact state officials. This is not a matter that I am putting forth to the entire village. However, the denigration of my name, of my likeness, of my race, of my education and achievements by an elected official is intolerable. Furthermore, I have documents showing that various other elected officials and former staff people were sent some of these messages. How far it goes is yet to be seen. However, it is the tip of an iceberg. And Mr. Mayor, I lastly want to say, this is your administration. This is the climate that I have to serve the village of Glendale. And this is why I am speaking up and not tolerating this anymore. Whether you call it racism or anything else, it is the deliberate denigration and defamation of an elected official. I will not stand for this in a public meeting or any other meeting with this village. So therefore, I'm excusing myself.
Okay. We have received 2 financial checking reports, general checking, certification for the payment of certain bills, certification for the enterprise checking. We have also received a council financial summary. Do I have a motion to acknowledge receipt of these reports?
So moved.
And second?
All those in favor?
Aye. Mayor?
I will just say that if people feel that I am not performing this role in the way that I should be, I hope they'll come to me on it and tell me how I can do better, if nothing else. I was aware of some of the documents, not all of them, and I felt this was a matter between 2 individuals serving in the village government. And so I did not feel that it was the place of the mayor or the government to take action. That was my judgment, and I'll stand by it. But if people feel that I should have done more, I'm open to hearing it. With that, if there's no, and I'm saying that you can come to me anytime about it. I mean, it doesn't have to be right at this meeting. So with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Did you have a, okay.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.